Today, I'm sharing my lessons learned leading sustainability tech at Microsoft and Amazon. I spent the last 5 years working there. Many of you in the audience have also worked in big tech, but many of you work at smaller nonprofits and research organizations. And so, to give a bit of background context on my experience, I was previously at ThoughtWorks, which is a global software consultancy known for Agile. And I was fortunate enough, after completing my MBA in sustainability, to have the opportunity to launch a new business unit line there, Clean Tech and Sustainability Solutions. We worked with enterprises, startups, and nonprofits, and we also launched an open source solution called Cloud Carbon Footprint, which helps developers to measure their emissions from the top cloud providers, AWS, Google, and later Azure, and to find ways to optimize and reduce their emissions. From there, I went over and joined the Microsoft Central Sustainability team, reporting into the Chief Sustainability Officer. This team covered things such as the Climate Innovation Fund, the Planetary Computer, Microsoft's strategy and responsibility for achieving net zero by 2030. And my role there was launching the Microsoft Sustainability Cloud, which is a carbon footprint solution for enterprises. And I also led the green software community that later helped to launch the Green Software Foundation with Microsoft, ThoughtWorks, Accenture, and others. I was then offered a role over at Amazon in one of the business units, so moving from a central sustainability team to a business unit sustainability team, which was for the retail organization. When you go on Amazon and you buy a product that's white label or Amazon branded, that was the team responsible for that. And I worked with a lot of product-oriented software automation there, looking at how to calculate the carbon footprint of products, looking at automating the certification process, such as certifying a product that was organic or FSC certified wood. And we also looked at supply chain due diligence, like human rights for workers and working conditions in the supply chain. And because a lot of that was supply chain related, after a couple of years, I went over to the central sustainability team again, the Worldwide Sustainability Organization at Amazon, and I led sustainability strategy for supply chain. And what I did in that role was look at how to identify and deduplicate the tens of thousands of suppliers that Amazon works with across all of its different business units, and how we could automate and centralize a lot of the data that we collect from suppliers, from publicly available information, from third parties, and from suppliers themselves. And so we launched the Amazon Sustainability Exchange with a portal where suppliers could upload their carbon footprint information directly in a way that was centralized and unified across the business. In 2026, I'm excited to share that we've just been accepted to the Clean Tech Open Accelerator program on the path to building my own clean tech startup. The first lesson learned, I'll share 3 lessons in my talk today. And the first lesson learned is that sustainability is a continuous process. I'll ask you this question: what happens when Amazon reaches net zero in 2040? What happens next in 2041? We're not done. The work continues. Now, I would often hear this debate about resourcing. Do we need dedicated sustainability resources? Or can we actually just embed sustainability into the business and make it part of everyone's job? Well, the answer, I think, is both. Think about it in terms of a security team. I don't think any organizations are going around saying that they will no longer need their security team at a certain point in time. But at the same time, they do need all of their employees to understand what security is and what's a phishing attack, and so that they can help to prevent them. So the organization is only as strong as its weakest link. And that's the same for sustainability. The average employee at Amazon has a tenure of 18 months, a year and a half. And that's not just warehouse workers, it's corporate workers as well. Another thing that's continuous is continuously making the case for sustainability. I want to go back here. This is an editing note. I'm actually going to go back to the start of this slide. The first lesson learned I'd like to share, and I'll share 3 lessons learned today, is that sustainability is a continuous process. Microsoft has a commitment to be net zero by 2030, and Amazon has a commitment to be net zero by 2040. But what happens in 2041 and 2042? In fact, we're never done. I often heard a resourcing debate about, do we need dedicated sustainability employees, or can we build it in and make it part of everyone's job? Another thing I saw was that centralizing sustainability resources. When I worked at Amazon, within the private brands organization, there was 3 different sub-business units that looked at areas like clothes, furniture, and food. Initially, it was thought that by centralizing a sustainability team that worked across all 3 of those areas, they could get rid of the resources that worked within the individual areas. Similarly, I often heard business unit teams thinking that the central sustainability team would be able to do their job for them. But it's not the case. In the same way that Conway's law says that organizations are destined to build software that matches the shape of their internal organizational structure, we need sustainability resources that match the organizational structure as well, so that we can build in sustainability at every level. You don't hear organizations saying that we can get rid of our security team once we're done, and the same is true for sustainability. And we need every employee to understand security, like understanding what a phishing attack is and how to protect yourself against it, but that doesn't mean you don't need a security team. The other thing I saw is that we need to continuously make the business case for sustainability. When I joined Microsoft, it was shortly after they had announced their commitment to be net zero by 2030, but already the data center boom around AI was starting to happen. Now, if you're Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, it's not like you can just push back on building more data centers and not embrace the market opportunity around AI. As a business leader, it is your job as a CEO, it's your fiduciary responsibility to prioritize profits above all else for the shareholders. And if you don't do that, the board would quickly find someone else. And so we had to look at going back to the business case for how sustainability helps. And there's 2 ways it can do that, which is saving money or improving customer retention. I'll just repeat and fix that sentence. And there's 2 ways that you can make the case for sustainability. One is saving money, such as extending the life of data center equipment. If it lasts longer, it reduces costs, but it also reduces the embedded carbon. Or that sustainability is something that customers demand and want and will help with customer retention. And this is where the green software community and sustainability advocates have really helped to put pressure on. And communication and pressure campaigns are a really effective way of doing this. I saw strength in numbers when I was at AWS, and a group of enterprise customers got together and wrote a letter saying that there was certain information that they needed and certain actions that they needed AWS to take. Otherwise, they would switch suppliers related to sustainability. One of my favorite quotes by Margaret Mead is, "Never forget that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, is the only thing that ever has." The second theme that I'd like to share my learnings around is that I observed AI for sustainability being more like a marketing tool, something that's sprinkled on top, that's shared in the media and press releases and conference talks, but pales in comparison to the other efforts that are happening internally around AI. Now, this is not to diminish the effort of organizations out there building sustainability solutions, NGOs and research groups who are investigating valid use cases for AI for sustainability. And to a certain extent, big tech is doing this as well. But AI for sustainability is like a vertical domain, like AI for healthcare or AI for government, only a much, much smaller one with much fewer resources. Imagine that within these companies, you have tens or hundreds or thousands of developers and employees working on data centers, and then 20, 30, 40 who are working on AI for sustainability. The resource investment is tiny, but the social license to operate that this story or this narrative provides is huge. And the elephant in the room is that AI is also accelerating fossil fuel production. There was a lot of pushback from employees while I was at Microsoft on their work with big oil. It was helping oil companies to expand and accelerate drilling in areas that oil exploration might otherwise not be possible if it weren't for the use of AI. 2 employees from Microsoft, Holly and Will Alpine, left and went on to found the Enabled Emissions campaign, which is designed exactly to raise awareness about this issue. So my point here is that it's not the big tech companies who are going to help us save sustainability with AI. It's the organizations who are already working on sustainability that have sustainability core to their mission are going to be the ones who can help use AI for sustainability and help use climate change. The other caveat I want to add, though, is that sustainability and climate change isn't necessarily a research problem in the same way that solving cancer is. There are many different applications that we can look at improving, making more efficient, reducing energy usage, optimizing, and so on. But one of the core blockers we see around climate change is a political problem, getting politicians to act who haven't been captured by the fossil fuel industry. And I don't really know that AI is going to help solve that problem. The third and final theme that I'd like to share from my lessons learned is that sustainability is about change management. A lot of what we did as a sustainability team was work with the business to translate big lofty goals 10, 20 years out in the future into the near-term business planning cycles of 1 to 2 years. And then we need to look at the business processes, the steps that exist today, and what are the points where sustainability needs to be inserted as a new way of doing things or a decision-making criteria. A big part of this was around supplier engagement. For a majority of organizations, up to 80 to 90% of their emissions come from scope 3, which is actually the emissions of someone else, their suppliers. When I was working at Amazon, one of the researchers on the sustainability science team, in fact, said this to me: there's no such thing as scope 3. It's just the scope 1 and 2 emissions of everyone else. So what are these scope 1 and 2 emissions? At the end of the day, it comes back down to fuel burned and energy, getting everyone to switch from oil and gas and coal over to renewable energy and low carbon emission forms of transport. Instead of burning gas and diesel and petrol, we need to have electric vehicles and planes and ships. At the end of the day, that is the global transformation that's needed. Now, it's not to say that the supplier engagement isn't necessary. It's a huge part of this, and it creates a ripple effect, which which I think is really positive. So even though these big companies may have the ability, I'm going to scrap this and go back a little bit on this slide as well. I want to go back to the point where what was the last point that I'd said? I don't remember my last exact sentence. I'm going to pick up from after where I mentioned that a research scientist told me there's no such thing as scope 1 and 2. It's just no such thing as scope 3. It's just everybody else's scope 1 and 2. Okay. This meant that sustainability at these big tech organizations is a huge part to do with supplier engagement. Figuring out the carrots and sticks that would help to influence and drive change throughout their supply chain. So this included things like updating the supplier code of conduct so that before a business unit could onboard a supplier, the supplier needed to agree to new terms, which would say that they would measure and report their carbon emissions. There'll be questions inserted into RFPs to understand if a prospective solution provider measures and reports on emissions. Do they have product carbon footprints available? How committed are they, and have they been reducing their emissions already? There's rewards that could be offered, like providing better payment terms, faster payment terms, categorizing suppliers as preferred, gold, top-tier suppliers, giving supplier sustainability awards. That's recognition that they can use in their own websites and media and PR. And even on the employee side, when I was at Microsoft, they updated the executive pay to make sure that sustainability was a large or a significant part of their compensation to balance out the need to prioritize sustainability above the profits and shareholder above profits and gosh, it's so much easier to blank when you're doing a recording than when you're live. Okay, after the supplier part and before I get into the education part, this is where I'm going to start from. We also needed carrots and sticks on the employee side. When I was at Microsoft, we rolled out training to have all developers learn about green software and for all executives to understand Microsoft's sustainability commitments in greater detail so that they could talk about it, present about it publicly, and in client talk about it, present about it publicly, and discuss it in executive level meetings. Microsoft also updated their executive compensation to ensure that sustainability performance was a significant criteria that they were evaluated against, not just shareholder profit. Just thinking about my transition to the next slide because I said things in a little bit of a different order. What I saw is a long road ahead of us, because to change everyone, the tens of thousands of suppliers down to small businesses, to change everything, we need everyone. We need everyone to understand sustainability and how they can act on it. So, what's next? I've spent the last 20 years of my career working in technology, and the last 10 years working on leading sustainability tech initiatives from inside large organizations. I want to spend the next 20 years of my career dedicated to starting a company or a portfolio of companies that are addressing sustainability head on as their core mission. Here are some of the things that I think that we need to see happening differently in the future. The first is hope for the future of AI. Unfortunately, although OpenAI was founded with the promise of helping bring in a better future for humanity, we've seen them move away from their status as a public benefit corporation to focus more on profits, to roll out solutions quickly with limited safety guardrails, such as for children and teenagers who are using ChatGPT for therapy. And we're seeing a lot of the tech companies blow past their sustainability commitments in the race to expand AI and build ever more data centers. At the same time, these data centers are creating a lot of harms in the local communities, issues such as air quality and air pollution. I think we need a beacon of hope for what good sustainable AI looks like. I think we need a beacon of hope for what sustainable AI looks like. That's AI that runs on 24/7 renewable energy. It's AI where small language models are selected and optimized for the task at hand so that there isn't a lot of waste. The energy usage and the carbon emissions of our AI usage is made visible to users while they're working on it. It's AI that runs at the edge and on local devices and protects user privacy and doesn't use their data for training. Second, I think we need more businesses that put social and environmental responsibility on the same footing as shareholder profit. This is something that needs to happen legally and structurally in the business entity. Things like public benefit corporations, B corporations, worker platform cooperatives that actually are built for people, by people, prioritizing employer and worker health, well-being, fair wages, being responsible for the environmental impact on local communities. And third, I think we need to simplify sustainability for everyone. It shouldn't require a master's or a PhD or hours of internet research to understand if one action is more sustainable for another. We can take all of our lessons learned and we can take all of our knowledge and lessons learned and be building that in as change management into people's everyday processes. When I'm making a decision about what groceries to buy, what products to buy, when I'm moving house and connecting up what groceries to buy, what products to buy, when we're paying our energy bills or water bills each month. These are the inflection points where we can be influencing and creating change at the individual level at scale. we need to make sure this is a and we need to make sure that the information that's being shared by AI is accurate and responsible for sustainability. We should be drawing on initiatives like the IPCC. I'm adjusting this sentence from my talk. So we need to make sure that AI chatbot solutions are giving people accurate information on sustainability, not the marketing messages from corporations that are floating around on the internet saying, buy more products that are made with, not the marketing messages that are floating around on content on the internet saying that we should buy more products with sustainable materials. I think I might just need to scrap this sentence because and we need to make sure that the information that AI is providing people is actually accurate when it comes to sustainability. For example, if you ask an AI what the most sustainable chair is that you can buy, it's probably going to tell you something like, for example, if you ask an AI the most sustainable chair that you could buy, it would tell you to look for FSC certified wood or organic and recycled materials. What it doesn't tell you, what the AI gets wrong, is that the most sustainable chair you can get is a secondhand chair from your neighbor or from the most sustainable chair you can get is a secondhand chair picked up from your neighbor or a thrift store or a secondhand marketplace. In conclusion, if you're thinking about, as software technologists working on this area number 1, I'd encourage you to think about these areas 2 and 3 as well. And make sure that we're building not just the right technology, but the right businesses and the right customer experiences that can help us to achieve our goals. Thank you so much for your time. Please reach out. I would love to connect, whether it's discussing technical solutions, business partnerships, investment, customer interviews, working together. I'd be more than happy to find a time to meet up virtually or in person. Thank you.